turned to me and he said, "What's wrong with America?" Listen to that silence right now. What's wrong with America? You know, for Germans, half of our family was cut off during World War II. And we're just now reestablishing relationships with our family in Leipzig and Dresden. It's the American way rebuilt Europe. In spite of what the French may say, they appreciate us. They set us almost on a mountain. That's why they send their kids here. Because we teach them the values that we have given them since World War II. It's as true as true can be. What is wrong with America? Do you think the secular world's got it here? You think they're handling the problem? I have never seen so much divisiveness in this country since when I was a boy growing up in the 60s. And the race riots and the violence and the hatred. And it's here again. And it's here in so many other forms. And when Mort said that, it was like, what is wrong with America? And what is our role as Christians in America? Because we want to be relevant. I'm going to talk about two things, but the principle of this message is unity. Unity is God's will. Amen. Don't get confused. By our disharmony, by the lack of unity, we become no better than the secular world. No better. Amen. I'm not big on humor, but I can tell you some stories as a parent that might shock you. It even shocks me as I look back. A few years ago, I bought a beautiful Audi 5000 Quattro Turbo, fire engine red, sparkling black interior. Speed ship, you name it, had it all. And I had it parked in the garage. It had 15 miles. Came in from Berlin, 15 miles. Some of you may know that my wife and I have two autistic children. Our oldest one is really special. So, you know, the next morning I was getting up and I went out to the garage just to look at it again. Materialism. Just to look at it again. It was beautiful. And I noticed a hose that was kind of stuck in the top of the window. And I walked on, I thought, I wonder what that was. And I was focusing so much on getting back in the house and getting a cup of coffee that I didn't really think about it through until I got into the door and I walked into the utility room. It was like, what would that hose be doing in the window of my car? And I walked back in and I looked at the window of the car and I saw these waves. I saw these waves. And I thought, oh no. Oh no, it couldn't be. And I went over to the back door, I opened the door, and the waters knocked me back. It was filled to the top with water. To the top. And needless to say, the car was totaled. Yeah. Now, after you go through that, there might be some anger in me. I freely admit it. So I walk out of there, and I'm heading into the house, and Alex runs up to me and says, Dad, did you see? I filled it up with gas. I filled it up with gas. I filled it up with gas. I just kept on going to the hallway. I shut my bedroom door, took all my clothes off, and took the hottest shower I could possibly take to try to think it was a nightmare. Now listen, here's what's happening here. All humor aside, he'd seen me pump gas all the time. I set the example. But I didn't explain it. And so it was a disaster. We have to set the example. And we've got to make it clear. We can't get people confused. Oh, we do it this way or that way. No. You're right, Alex. I do that, but I do it at the gas station, and I went through the procedure. But he thought he was doing it. How many times do you think the secular world, when we speak, think, is that the way we do it, or do we do it this way, or do we do it that way? They're confused. They want some answers. Because the secular world, in case you haven't noticed, is not answering anything for anybody other than creating chaos and discord every minute of the day. Amen. They are seeking answers. We have a golden opportunity. If we remember, unity is God's will. Amen. A few years later, continuing on with my fine parenting techniques, I was at a sporting goods store. And they had this huge slingshot. I know. This huge slingshot. And the thing was this big in the middle. You could really put some big balloons in there. I mean, really big balloons. And I had my kids, we had our kids there, all four of them, they were making balloons, and I was making balloons, filling them with water, and making them filled up with water balloons. We were filling them up, all these boxes with water. I bet we had 200 balloons. Had all the neighborhood kids, and I was just being a leading parent in providing entertainment, love, and joy. And then we just took that big old slingshot, we brought it back, kids with me one at a time, and then we do it again. We probably did it 100 or 200 times. Man, everybody was jumping up and down, everybody was having smiles and happy times. I mean, gosh, I was a really important parent. I was really providing some meaningful interaction. Then his car pulls around the driveway, drives down my driveway, and slams on his brakes. Scott jumps out. I won't say his last name because several of you will know his business. Scott jumps out and he says, "Jim, what in the world are you doing?" Well, I said, "Well, the kids are over here. Bring your kids over. We're just taking some water balloons and we're shooting them up there and watching them for sale." And he said, "Do you know where they're going?" Well, Scott, I really hadn't thought about that. You have knocked out every window in my sunroom. You have knocked out every window in my two-story house. The entire house looks like a bomb hit it. And I said, "Well, Scott, let me go with you and tell your wife she'll kill you. If she sees you and she knows your face, she'll kill you." Let me tell you something. What is that? That's leadership, isn't it? That's poor leadership, real poor leadership. And I'm going to tell you something. A lot of us are doing the same thing. We are really out of it in leadership. We have to set for the world example. We have to set for the world leadership. When's the last time you felt comfortable about the President of the United States? When's the last time you felt comfortable about any government agency? When is the last time you felt comfortable about what's going to happen for your grandkids or your kids? That shouldn't be the case. I remember, many of you do too, when we grew up. I want you to get farther ahead than my son. I want you to get farther ahead than me. I want you to have the right education, the right opportunities, and I want you to see the right morals and the values. And it was an opportunity of the future. Our German boys understand that. They understand an opportunity of the future. It is so important we as Christians right now realize we have the time, the opportunity to do what God wants us to do.
Amen.
Let me make it clear here. When we look at the Bible,